This week on the Deep Leadership Podcast.
Want all of us to challenge ourselves all the time to become better and become lifelong learners if we are not yet. And if you don't know what that means, so it means that you should just keep on learning things and outside of your business field as well all the time.
This episode is brought to you by the Salty Sailor Coffee Company, the official coffee of the Deep Leadership Podcast. Salty Sailor is a veteran-owned coffee brand on a mission to deliver premium, fresh roasted coffee while making a positive impact in the world. Their motto is drink coffee and do good, which reflects their commitment to making amazing coffee and actively supporting the military community. 10% of every order goes to the Navy Marine Corps Relief Society, an organization dedicated to helping sailors, Marines, and their families in times of need. All our listeners get 10% off every order of their amazing coffee by using the discount code DEEP at checkout. So check them out at saltysailorcoffee.com. Welcome to the Deep Leadership Podcast. Today I'm joined by Aslak de Silva. Aslak has nearly 20 years of experience as a practitioner and instructor of Han Moo Do martial arts, competing in 100 full contact fights and winning the World Championship gold medal in Michigan in the year 2000. Now, martial arts has taught him the importance of leaders being lifelong learners and coaching others. Aslak is CEO of Selfly Store, where they use the latest developments in Internet of Things, machine learning, and AI to offer smart vending machines that make grab-and-go food shopping as easy as using your home fridge. He was recognized by Chiefs Digest as one of the 10 best CEOs to watch in 2023, and he has been leading teams and companies for more than 15 years. And I'm excited to have him on the show to talk about his experience in leadership and the lessons he learned from martial arts. So Aslak, welcome to the show.
Thanks, John, for having me. I'm a fan of your podcast. So it's a really honor to be here. Yeah.
Oh, it's the honor's all mine. It's great to meet you and great to have you calling in from Finland. We were just talking a little bit about that. So this is your long days of summer right now, I bet.
Yeah, it's getting shorter, but still, I mean, the sun is up at 10 p.m., so I think it's a long day still, yeah.
It's a great time of the year over there for sure. But really, I wanted to get you on the show and talk about your views and your perspective on leadership. So, in your perspective and in all the things that you've done throughout your career and with martial arts, how do you best define what the role of the leader is?
Yeah, that's a good question and a tough question. So I'm not a consultant, so I don't have a one liner there to give you. But I mean, leadership is about people, as you say as well in I mean many of your episodes. I think it starts from that, and I believe that it's leaders' kind of a job and task to enhance the team members' abilities to succeed. And sometimes there's a goal, sometimes they spar and coach others. But anyways, the point of having a leader is there for the human beings there to be able to perform better under the leadership. And then there are many things that are involved, but I think somewhere in that line, I would define the leadership being, right? What do you think, John? Do you agree?
Yeah, I mean, you often hear me say that leadership is a people business, and it's all the things that talk about how do we help our people become the best versions of themselves in pursuit of an organizational objective, right? And so we got to make sure that they're in the right roles, that they have a growth plan, that they're getting better at what they do, and they have a chance to, they're doing what they have been put on earth to do, and when they're doing those things in pursuit of a goal, and they're doing what they feel like they've been put on earth to do, things get magical, right? Great things happen, and it's hard to do, but that's what our jobs are, and people are messy, as I often say, and our goal is to try to get them aligned. So I think you and I share a lot of the same beliefs when it comes to that. It's about people, it's about helping them succeed. So I really like what you said there. Um, so it's interesting. Most of my leadership fundamentals I learned as a young submarine officer on nuclear submarines. And you've had similar experience with martial arts, and you've had a lot of lessons that you've learned. And I thought it would be great to unpack some of those. So, what are some lessons in either leadership or business that you have learned through your long career in martial arts?
Yeah. Yeah, of course, martial arts is also about people. So if you go to a fight, so you're fighting an opponent, and that's a human being as well. So I mean, lots of things are very, very similar. Although, of course, in martial arts and in a fight, you're trying to use those things to win the fight and so on. But anyways, lots of things, anything from actually I talk a lot about like emotional intelligence and reading the feelings of the opponent there. And often the fight is actually won mentally rather than physically in the beginning. And you're trying to see how the other person is thinking and feeling in the moment. And then you're actually, well, in martial arts, you take advantage of it. But then as a leader, you try to help the people when you see that they are in a weak spot, or you sense their weaknesses or maybe even their fears. The other things that I pick up from martial arts is a lot about the preparation. So I think many leaders actually miss that they are maybe too afraid to fear something, or they are too afraid to kind of feel weaknesses or even admit them. And in martial arts, the gym or the dojo or wherever you train is the place where you actually test your mental strength. And you should fear because that pushes you to think differently. When you overcome a fear, you become a stronger person and more calm. And in the end, I think as a leader as well, that you should be able to control your own feelings and stay calm and just observe the situation. And leadership as a fight is always situational. So you have all the techniques, you have all the tools that you need to train to be better, but the situation is still a situation where there's no right way to go, and you just have to step in and do your best. But all the training, all the theory will help you to have those tools to overcome any situation, but still it's about each individual situation that you encounter.
That makes a lot of sense. And the thing I think of when I think of martial arts is I think of this, this continuous learning, the discipline, the focus, the training. But what you just hit me with, what I wasn't thinking about, is in combat sports, it's about really reading the opponent across from you. And so what's interesting is I was thinking about, you said first of all that it's a mental, like you win mentally more than physically. So if there's a mindset issue there, you're sensing the other person. So there's in leadership, of course, we talk about empathy, right? So be able to read another person. But as I did never really thought about it, but in combat sports, you have to really read the other person. You're like, you see and you sense what they are doing, what their tendencies are, what their potential weaknesses are. So you really are in tune with the other person, which I think is one of the things I think is missing in leadership, is that we often are full of ourselves and we're not focused on others. And I think when you're getting in the ring with somebody and you're gonna fight, I imagine your focus is going to be on what are they doing and how can I act in this case to be able to win, but also but I think empathy might be a big part of that. Am I wrong in saying that, or what do you think?
No, you are right with that. And I mean that of course in a fight, if you go to full contact fights, or basically you try to hurt the opponent, so kind of that sense, you don't feel empathy the same way as you would, or you would
Mm,
need to do as a leader. But surely yes, because that kind of is the sense of I'm not sure what the exact word is, but that kind of with empathy, you sense that somebody kind of needs you or craves something from you. And in a fight, in a way, you kind of course attack those spots where you kind of see the weaknesses, and the feeling of the other one kind of giving in the situation, or maybe they have they have their sensing of fear, or they have too much pressure. Because of course if you go to a sports, when you say combat sports, so you want to win, and maybe people are observing, people say that did you win, and ask these questions, and in a fight always the other one loses and the other one wins. And it's a strong mental game also after the fights. And I remember myself also sometimes even crying of shame after the fight when I didn't perform well. And then you have to overcome that fear again back at the gym, and go back and try out again. So these kind of feelings, then they kind of go very high and then very low. And if you lose somewhere in important fights, so then you really need to learn how to pick yourself up from there. And that's also when you instruct and coach others. So these are lots of things that you have to do. There are a lot more than I'd say in a workplace normally. But I do believe that one should do as a leader the same things, because if you just are only talking about the positive things and never deal with the negative feelings, and kind of help people overcome those, and get the fighting spirit back, so then you lose as a leader a lot, even though you might be succeeding on paper. But with people, that if you can really change their mindset from kind of when they feel down, and you can lift them up, so that's a winner strategy for leaders as well.
so helping you get a lot of experience in winning. I imagine you get a lot of experience in losing, and then and with losing comes learning, and then how do you get better after that? So I imagine having those experiences in your life when you as you become an entrepreneur and you start a company or you're dealing with company issues, you've been through winning and losing, and so you know how to deal with that, right? Is that do you see that as well?
Yeah, I do. And then in the end, in martial arts, you don't actually care about the win or lose. You just care that
Mm.
did you perform at your best. And then I often say that if you ever fight in a full contact fight, so basically the physical pain is about the same, win or lose. But the mental pain is different. So then when you win, so you feel good,
Ah.
and when you lose, you feel bad. But sometimes even when you win, so you might feel bad since you didn't perform the way you thought you could perform. And similarly, if you lose sometimes to a better opponent, you might still be happy and have a high motivation to go back to the gym to train to be better. And that's what martial artists talk about, this door, the way of life, is that you just kind of you know how to get better, or you have the drive to get better every day, and you know what you need to do. Often they're very basic still. It's nothing that you need to learn very new things, but you just need to be better at everything every day. And then that's the door, the way that you walk every day, which means then that regardless of what happened yesterday, your full focus is on getting better today so that tomorrow you can again get better and better. And sometimes that's tiring and it's hard to motivate yourself. But I think in business, it's a bit similar, that we all have this kind of targets and the drive. But sometimes we ask ourselves, is this enough? And sometimes we're happy, which is totally fine. But it's not about, again, it's very seldom a single fight, a single win or lose situation where we decide that do we want to be better tomorrow, or do we want to continue, or do you want to learn something new? It's more about like the lifelong learning, even for entrepreneurs as well.
I love that. I mean, one of the things I just took away from that is that, sometimes as business leaders, we have a good month and we're get excited about it, like we celebrate it. And then we have a bad month financially. We maybe get down. But the question is, did you give your all in that month, right? And if you gave your all in that month, even if you didn't have the result, the financial result that you expected, you can hold your head up high. What I'm hearing from that is, did you give it your best? And even when you win, maybe you got lucky, right? Maybe you had a good month and got lucky. Did you give it your best in the months that you won, right? And I love that idea that it's really about, are you putting in your best, and the end result may be different. You may not get the result you want, but are you absolutely, can you walk away from your business at the end of the month that you did absolutely your best? And
Yeah.
that's a kind of interesting perspective. I haven't really thought of that, because I think when I think of fighting, I think of winning and losing, but you're saying no, it's about, are you are you doing your best? Can you walk away and be proud of your work, your effort, regardless of the outcome?
Yeah, and it's the same with leadership. So we tend to, like you started, that we tend to focus on ourselves, but the
Yeah.
fight outcome is depending on the opponent.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
you can never, of course, in the gym you're talking to yourself, and your self-confidence need to be high when you go into a fight, or as a leader the same way, but it's still not about you. It's about the people you lead, or the person you're fighting against. You need to beat that person in a fight, or when you're leading the people, you need to lead the people that you have there. It's basically never their fault if you fail, or if the team fails. It's your leadership task to make it better. But there again, I wouldn't be too harsh on like counting, like you were saying, that looking at single months result or something. It's depending on so many factors. More
Mm.
the better question is that, okay, did you do your best? And then again, more about even that, what did you learn not to do next time, or what did you learn to maybe do better even in the future? So I talk about a lot of myself, a lot about, rather than feedbacks, which is then historical, I talk about feed forward, knowing what happened last time, what do we do in the future? And this is then the martial arts fighting spirit is that, okay, whatever happened, win or lose, what do you take for the next fight, and how do you utilize that? So that's even more important than the outcome at that single time, which then helps, of course, to kind of think strategically long term, and again focus on the basics. A lot of the training that I did and I still do is actually waking up to kind of just to make my body better. I'm stretching to physical exercise, and even reading my mind to be better, so that I just know that it's part of its warm up, but at the same time, if I do the basics well, so I'm always prepared when the time comes, whether it's to learn something from business or leadership or AI even, or the same way as a martial artist, that if I get a chance to train with the best in the world, so my body is already always ready to get the best training or always ready for a fight. I think it's worth, like, it's really bad to lose a fight that you were just not prepared, and you
Mm.
never know when the fight is. Similar with the leadership, I'd say that you never know what the situation today or tomorrow is, so just be prepared for everything all the time, and then actually your mind is really calm for the situation and you can act. So this is the way to control the kind of your own emotions, your own kind of quality as a leader, to be the same throughout every day, every year, and then if you improve your skills, so then you'll be better every time, and it's really visible actually all the time, rather than one of great situational leadership moment or so on.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. One of the things I was going to ask you is, I spent a little bit of time in martial arts, but not as much as you, obviously. But one of the things I noticed is, like, once you start as a student, you start very basic, and then as you rank up and become more skilled, you become a teacher, and then you end up, so you're mentored in the early days, and then you shift to being a mentor and being a coach. You say that that's very similar in business. So why is coaching important in leadership, in your opinion?
Yeah. Well, I believe that coaching, of course, is part of that you're teaching somebody else that what you have learned. And whenever you're teaching somebody, so then actually you have to really understand what you have learned. And when you observe others doing, so you start seeing things that are maybe are not going that well. Sometimes you see mistakes, or sometimes you see the other way around, that when you coach somebody and they pick up something, so they do really well after that. So then you start understanding a bit more how well can you explain things. And a lot of things about leadership is still about communications anyways, and how your message gets through and how you can help people. Communication goes both ways. Similarly, coaching goes both ways. So you hear the coachee saying something back, and then you have to absorb and help them out. So I think it's a lot to do with that. Because in martial arts, like we talked already, so kind of the mental coaching and then the techniques, then you can show, and the other one can kind of repeat and so on. But the mental part of it is vital, so that you can when I've been coaching people, so they have won fights with that they never thought they could win, and even I thought they could not win, but like full focus and just living in the moment. Similarly with bad coaching, you can lose. A good fighter can lose to anyone when you have the wrong strategy in the fight. And so the business way as well. So I think as a leader, you learn a lot more of your own capabilities and skill set when you coach others. But at the same time, for the person who you are coaching, so the relationship becomes very strong and very connected. And then in the end, it's way easier to work together, and it's way easier to lead the person that you be coaching. You get better results. But still, I do coaching to outside of my own team as well, because like I said, that it helps me to kind of see how I observe things and actually work with other people really closely, which then gives direct feedback for me as well, that how am I behaving as a person, and am I actually able to help the other one to perform better? If I am, so then the direction is at least right. So yeah.
That's fantastic. I think it's great. I think it's a big part of what we have to do is, develop people around us, share our experiences, help them become better. And generally, I think employees who are part of an organization that is trying to get better, and they're helping them try to get better, that they feel more, they feel more connected to the business than if you're just, here, do this job for the rest of your life,
Yeah.
versus, like, where do you want to be when what kind of career do you want to have, and how can I help you get there? And I think that's a whole different discussion. So
Yeah. Very true. And in martial arts, it basically is that you become a master when you have coached somebody to become a master, or like a teacher
mm,
as well. So kind of you need to build the successor for you. And then the more of those you have, so the better you become, because you actually understand not only how to perform yourself, but you actually can teach others to become teachers or masters. So that's how you kind of advance. I In business, you don't have the same ranks, you don't have the belt system where you have different colors of belts, and black belts have different degrees. But basically, I still feel it's about the same, that if you can actually build a team leader yourself, so you can become maybe a high level leader yourself, executive level leader, when you have been able to build team leaders for smaller teams and so on. So you kind of then you can pass on your knowledge to the next one, so you can advance in your knowledge to the next level.
That makes so much sense. Makes so much sense. So let's switch gears a little bit. Talk about Selfly. Selfly store. You guys are embracing new technology, and you've got these smart vending machines. Maybe tell us a little bit about what you guys do. But then, what should other business leaders be thinking about when it comes to AI and other technology? And how should they be embracing that for their businesses going forward?
Yeah, so what we try to do is that to make the consumer purchasing as simple as possible. So build a device that's very easy to use. You just have your credit card or Apple Pay, and you open the door. It checks that you have money, and then you can grab the items you want and just close the door, and that's it. The payment happens automatically. But for the merchants or the operators who are working with that, so we try to help them to predict the demand in the future. Very easy example is that if the weather, well, in Finland is never hot, but let's say it was hot, so the consumption of beverages would go high. Or let's say that you sell ice creams on a freezer, so then you are more prepared based on those data points that are happening. Or let's say there's a big event, Taylor Swift is coming to town or something, so everything is booked and restaurants are booked. So then the merchant who's working with the Selfie stores has this data, and then the machine itself in the Selfie cloud, which is then the portal that you use, will then give you advice that this is likely going to happen, and 40% of more beverages are going to be sold. Meal items are in high demand because restaurants are booked, and so on. So it actually helps then the merchant to have the right assortment ready for the consumers who are coming there, and then everybody's happy. You sell more, you can sell with higher price, you can make combo deals, and then consumers are surprisingly happy when you actually have the products they need. If it rains and you suddenly have umbrellas close to you in these cabinets, you are, oh, I was lucky to find them, but it's actually there's already data points. We all follow the weather forecast, but then for some reason we seldom see the merchants applying those in real life close to the consumer. So that's what we do. So my advice for other leaders and business executives there, so is to kind of course, one is that I every day listen to podcasts. I try to learn new things there to kind of, and people are talking a lot about their new developments, and just to understand like what's happening with different industries. I think my strength comes partly from martial arts as well, that I have been able to observe different businesses, different industries, and different people. So I'm very interested in learning from anybody and understanding why they do something or what they are trying to innovate on helps to kind of build the future and understand those kind of puzzle pieces, what are going to happen. So I'd say like just keep open mind and keep on learning and keep on talking to different industries, because all these technologies that I mentioned, or the ideas, they are from other industries actually, not from ours. And then when I'm talking in vending industry, so suddenly I'm the only one who's talking about these things, because they've been so focused on their own industry and very kind of blindfolded on the business they've done before, and looking maybe more on the historical developments than the upcoming future developments. And that's often hard for business leaders, even for me as well, to kind of, when you're really into your own industry, it's very hard to kind of start seeing the future, because you're so much focused on today and maybe even what happened yesterday and trying to fix those problems. So kind of lift your head up and see what the future is going to be like. Lots of information out there, but basic information that AI is going to rule the world is there for all of us. So if you don't understand that, what that does that mean, it's time to kind of start learning about AI and what it can do. And I know that we're in early stages of the AI development still, but it's better to get on board as soon as possible, and have some idea of that, rather than thinking negatively what it cannot do today. Tomorrow it can do things that it cannot do today. So rather embrace the opportunity to learn and keep your eyes open what it can mean to your industry as well.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And again, I think you provide the example of like, okay, vending machines have been around for a long time, right? And so, people might think, well, there's no way to modernize a vending machine and use modern tools to be able to, make a better vending machine. But you're proof that it can be done in something like a vending machine. Therefore, that translates to every one of our businesses, is that there is a place for these technologies in our products, and we need to be thinking about it. And again, expose yourself to the different podcasts, different places of information to learn this stuff. But then you need to be thinking about like, okay, well, how is this going to potentially affect my industry or my products or the service offerings I have, right?
Yeah, very true. And I mean, data is the new oil, has been there for a long time, and but I think it's even more crucial nowadays that if you have your own data points and you collect, so you start analyzing, and with AI tools you can find crazy things. I think things which opened my eyes, which should have been apparent as an example, were that I was asking, or customers were asking from us as well, that should they sell Coke or Pepsi? And then we were looking at from the data, we have customers in more than 20 countries, and then looking at the big data and seeing that, well, the answer actually, which is very apparent, that you should sell both. And the reason being that,
Mm,
of course,
yeah.
some prefer the other brand than the other. And then, but what we noticed was that the customers who actually had them both on sale, so they increased the sales of other items similarly. So the impact was not only on the items that do they buy Coke or Pepsi, but the impact was on the whole assortment within the cabinets inside there. So they managed to actually increase their sales more than 40% if they had both brands available in that. Again, I would say that this is very much very simple example that I said always when I talk about this, that I should have been able to say that, because it's very apparent that they're fans of both brands, and very seldom do you drink both of them. But things like this, when you have the data, you can actually ask the questions and find out the information, and then actually help your customers or your own business in a way. And that's why I'm very picky on how we collect data, and then how you pool the data for different things. So because like a vending machine still has maybe a couple of hundreds of items in, you cannot use all, you cannot be like, what size of a Coke sells the most? Doesn't matter. But maybe the category is then good enough. Maybe beverage category is good enough. Like I was sharing the example of a hot day, beverages sell more. I was not specifically saying which ones, because maybe it doesn't even matter, because people just want to drink something, and they are
Mm,
happy to get a drink, rather than if they get the brand they prefer, they are more happy. But anyways, they will buy something to drink. So to be able to kind of understand the difference between single data point to maybe a category and so on. So these then just like learning by doing, and asking the right questions, and be interested in what's happening with the data. And I think that's super crucial, even with the AI as well. Like we all been hearing the examples of how you train the AI with the data. So that's then skewing up the results, or helping you to see something that you've never seen before. So that's why it's important there.
yeah, yeah. I really like what you're saying there. I mean, I think what we're seeing with big data and with data analysis today is that you're going to find interactions with the data that you don't sense. Like there was a time when we could sense what's happening, but now you're talking about like, okay, Coke and Pepsi, it makes sense maybe to put both in, but what you didn't realize is that it increased the buying of something else. So the data helps you find those nuggets that maybe you can't see with the naked eye. So that's what's great about that. So I love that. One thing I was to ask you is you're a busy guy. As a CEO, you're into martial arts, you've got a busy life. How do you personally maintain a work-life balance?
Mm. Well, I think one of course, is that I'm from Finland, so where people actually value the work-life balance, which is great.
Thank
So
you. Yes, it's so true.
having the kind of long summer holidays, 4 weeks, and then 1 week winter holiday, so it's already the kind of in the DNA, which I'm lucky with. I wrote an article to Forbes.com as a business council member there about Tetrising your life into work-life balance.
Yeah.
So I strongly believe in this kind of I'm very calendar oriented. I have a wife and 2 daughters, so I mark in my business calendar also when they are busy. So
Mm.
my both of my daughters are figure skaters, and that's a sports where you have to train a lot from the young. When you were like 3 to 5 year old, you already have trainings almost every day, and they often have that very early. So even during the business hours, so I block those from my calendar, and then kind of go to train myself at the same time. So which then helps that my wife can take that off easy. She doesn't need to take care of the hobby transportation, and then at the same time I can spend time with my kids when I take them there. I can watch their training, and I can train myself. On top of that, I might then listen to a podcast or audiobook, or actually invite business friends or friends to train with me, where I then actually can socialize at the same time. So I try to do this kind of power hours where I do important things, maybe not 100% focus on individual thing, but many things at the same time. And then very much routine oriented. So I start the day every day the same way, which is actually then for me only. So checking my body, so I stretch or do yoga, and then I learn something new. I think that kind of keeps my brain fresh, and then it warms up the brain for the day. So very diligently following these routines and blocks for my life, and then with that I can do a lots of things, and then the remaining free time is then to use for something else, whether it's travel with the family or meeting friends or even just sleep more. So kind of I think the diligent routine follow up is super important in work-life balance as well, but then also putting them in right order in value. So I've been many times, unfortunately, in a situation where I just sat down in the airport and my wife is calling that kids are sick. I
Mm,
need to know what to do in that situation. Does it mean that I need to get off the plane and go home, or does it mean that I call somebody else to help or something? And I just need to know the priority. Unfortunately, most of the times I have prioritized the business, but maybe lately more on the family, and maybe even asking the question that, okay, how serious that situation is. But then when you have this kind of values and priority order in place, that helps you to make the decisions in those places, and then it's easier to live with those decisions that you make. So helps again with the work-life balance a lot, so that you know that when I'm on holiday, I'm literally on holiday as much as I can, which means that I'm not checking my emails or something. So then the focus is on family and my own well-being and my friends and sleeping enough, so that then I'm prepared for the time when I work. So these kind of also in sports, many times you have these blocks that when you have hard training sessions or competition season, but after that, then you maybe have odd weeks where you're just like relaxing or recovering. So I think this is also important to have in life, these kind of different blocks for different times of the year that you can act differently, which then helps you to overcome the stress from one side, and then maybe have more focus on the other side of life.
man, I love that. And I love, like you said, I mean, just the idea, I think like, when I spend time in Europe, I recognize, especially in Finland, you guys recognize the importance of this. And I think we struggle as Americans we think we have to work 24/7. And the truth of the matter is that's what leads to burnout. That's what leads to divorce. That's what leads to all sorts of problems in your life. So we need to learn these lessons. And I love the idea of blocking out time for your family, blocking out time for your priorities that are outside of work. Yeah, and I love that, and the idea of having seasons where you work hard, and then there's times where you're going to rest. And I do the same thing. I just spent 3 weeks in Europe, right? And so that's my time to rest and recover. Then I'm back at it again, and I'm hitting it hard. And so I think that we all can learn some lessons. I think Americans can learn some lessons from Europeans. You guys have got some things figured out. It was over in Norway last summer before last, and like nothing is going on in Norway in the summertime. There is nobody around. Everybody is on holiday. And I was like, there's something good about that. The weather is good. We're gonna go to they go to their remote cabin and they just relax. And I'm like, there's nothing wrong with that idea at all. So I think we can learn some lessons from you.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't know if all of you know, but then Norway's the oil fund, and
Yeah,
the governments, they own almost 2% of all the stocks in the world. So stock listed companies, 2% of the shares. So they've done something right. So they let the
absolutely.
capital work while they are in their cabins. So I mean, I love that way of thinking as well, that you don't need to work every day, but you can put the capital work for you as well. So and if you're just there micromanaging, I always say that the same way as well, that I believe that one shouldn't micromanage one's life the same way as one wouldn't want micromanagement at workplace. That's
Thank
the
you.
hardest thing, that if you every day talk to yourself that now you need to perform better, and you're micromanaging things and you never kind of let it go and let yourself grow, the same happens to you as the team members that you're micromanaging, and that's not the smart way to go.
Yes, yes. Very, very powerful advice. I love that. I love that. So that's like just wrapping up now. What final message would you like to leave with our listeners?
Well, I don't know. I think one should work with values every time. So I think the seasonality and year on year thinking. So now I'm just kind of getting back to work after my summer holiday. So I noticed a shift in my values, and leadership is still about people, as we talked and start with. So but with people as well. So there's always a chance to take risk and push people to do more, but just like still remembering that everybody's a human being. So as long as you're a driven human being, so things can go better. So I would want all of us to challenge ourselves all the time to become better and become lifelong learners if we are not yet. And if you don't know what that means, so it means that you should just keep on learning things and outside of your business field as well all the time. But then at the same time, I would always go back to values and asking yourself this kind of what's your life path gonna be look like, and so act as a person that you would value in the future as well. So if you're a good person today, so you really appreciate it what tomorrow brings to you.
Wow, that's a great, some powerful advice, some great feedback for us listeners as we're thinking about how do we become a better leader? How do we have that work-life balance? How do we get better? Aslak has laid it out for us, and he's made a clear and compelling case of how we have to be lifelong learners, and we have to keep pushing ourselves to get better at our craft and explore the values that we hold dear, and those change over the years. And so having that time to reflect and see if we're still consistent with our values and what things are changing, and make sure we're aware of that and be self-aware of what's changing. So Aslak, this has been fantastic. How can a listener find out more about you and your company?
Yeah, so selfishstore.com is then the address, and we are active on LinkedIn myself as well. I think I believe I'm the only Aslak de Silva in the world, so you'll find me there. I also have my own website, aslakdesilva.com, if you're interested in my content particular. And I also am podcast host in the podcast called The Black Belt in Leadership, where sharing more on these martial arts learnings. And I'm happy to connect, and Selfish Store as well. We are happy to kind of share the knowledge that we have if you're interested in vending industry and what the kind of technology brings. So just follow us or connect with us on LinkedIn. I think that's the best channel. So I like social media since it's kind of both ways. So I'm great if you visit our website or my website, but then it's just more that you get some stuff out of it. But social media then gives you out personal communication channel for both sides, so which is then great.
Well, fantastic. We're going to put links in the show notes for all of Aslak's resources. Again, if something in here resonated with you, go ahead and reach out to Aslak, have a conversation. I like the idea of his podcast, so we'll put a link in the for the podcast. Again, I'm always trying to help you find great leadership podcasts, and everything I've heard today, this is going to be a powerful podcast. I haven't listened to it yet, but I'm going to put it on my list, and so I can listen in, because I've learned a lot today, and I know you all have as well. So there's a link in the show notes for his podcast as well. I highly recommend to reach out to Aslak if you got some questions. And again, I really appreciate Aslak you coming on the show, sharing your insight, and I think you've helped us all learn and some ideas of how we can become better leaders. So thank you for coming on the show, and thank you for sharing your expertise.
Thanks, John. I like I said, I really love your podcast. I've been learning a lot from you, so it's an honor to be here, and thanks for having me.
Well, thanks again. Well, that's it for today. Thank you for listening to Deep Leadership. If you like this podcast, please subscribe and share so we can continue to build a world with better bosses. Until next time, this is John Rennie saying take care and lead well.